putting together this plan, but on top of it, doing a constant review of the plan each and every year. Stress testing that plan each and every year is what helps people fight that feeling of this worry about running out of money.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast with Scott Sierens, teaching you how to thrive in life, wealth, and retirement.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast, where we discuss thoughts, strategies, and actions to help you thrive in life, wealth, and retirement. I'm your host, Scott Sierens, and today's show, we're going to talk all about your questions. Questions from gifting to fighting that feeling of, do I need to go back to work once you've retired, to helping your children with money at a younger age, and then last talking about required minimum distributions. Now, if you have a question, feel free to go to lifemoneyshow.com. That's lifemoneyshow.com. You can submit your questions there. We'd be happy to answer them on the podcast. Also, go to lifemoneyshow.com for all things content, again, around helping you build wealth and reducing your long-term tax picture. We've got a lot of podcast episodes there, blogs there, as well as videos to help you in your financial future. So with that, before we dive into those questions, there was an article that I wanted to share with everyone today. And the title of the article was, Want a Better Retirement? Then Spend More of Your Money. How about that, right? Want a better retirement? Spend more of your money. And the article is from the Seattle Times, but it goes on to talk about how retirees spend too little of the money they amass. And the article talks about a couple reasons why. One being mindset. And I've found this as I continue to work with clients, is that those that have become savers over their lifetime, it's really tough for them to change into that mindset of a spender. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. And then the other thing is because of uncertainty, right? The uncertainty of how long will you live, the uncertainty of market risk. And so what they've found and what they're talking about in this article is that then for those that have worked and saved a healthy amount, it becomes really tough for them to spend it and enjoy it. But then they end up not using as much as they possibly could throughout the retirement. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about a few ways to combat this. The first way is, do you have a retirement income plan in place? A plan in place that you can stress test, that it can run different scenarios to say, hey, what if I were to spend, this much per month or this much per year? And this retirement income plan could also help show you how you can maximize your spending and still help make your money last. So one way, have a retirement income plan in place. Number two, the article talked about guaranteed lifetime income, and that folks with guaranteed lifetime income, they feel it's kind of like this license to spend. And when I talk about guaranteed lifetime income, you could almost think about like Social Security, right? Social Security's income for life. Now, when it comes to tools that provide guaranteed lifetime income, there are pros and cons to each of those tools and instruments that you really want to weigh those pros and cons and determine if that's a right fit for you. So let me leave you with this, and I hope that you'll go to our show notes, click on the article. It's a good read, but I agree, right? Want that better retirement? Our goal for all of our clients is to help them maximize what they can spend and make their money last through their retirement. But it takes a couple changes. One is a mindset change, right? That change of going from a saver to a spender. The other is going and changing the way that you focus, focusing more on the outcome that you want versus the returns and the account balance, right? Because when you're focusing on the outcome, you can utilize that and let that be your guide for what tools, instruments, investments, and allocations that you need in your plan to help maximize what you can spend throughout your retirement. The last part is what I've found in working with our clients is that just a constant review of that income plan and then stress testing the portfolios, mixing and matching the two of them up to constantly show our clients which way they are projecting and which way they are forecasting when it comes to their funds based upon how much they're withdrawing and how much they're taking out. So I hope you go and take a look at the article. I think it's a great read, and hopefully some of those points helped you and your overall future. All right, let's dive in to our listener questions. Our first one here comes from Charles. Charles said, I've been very blessed and I probably have more money in investments than I'll need during my life. Should I start giving away money to my kids and grandkids now so that they don't have to worry as much about estate taxes and probate costs? First off, Charles, great job to you. Sounds like you were a saver throughout your life, and it's really put you in a great spot for your future as well as your retirement. Now, let's kind of break this down into a few different areas. And first off, let's understand what Charles is talking about here. He mentions estate taxes. And what is an estate tax? Well, the estate tax is charged to a descendant's estate when the assets are passed on to the beneficiaries. Now, there are current thresholds, or should we say that you have up to so much threshold, right, before those estate taxes are charged to your estate. And currently, the threshold is $11.7 million per person, or that's $23.4 million per couple. So each person has an $11.7 million exemption from the federal, and sorry, I should have broken that out, from the federal estate taxes. Now, anything over that, you could be looking at estate taxes, and that could range from anywhere from 18% to 40%, and it all depends on how much you have over those threshold amounts. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, okay, well, I don't have 11.7 million. However, your state might also have an estate tax. And so you need to look into your individual state to understand what their estate tax is, if they have one, and you might fall within their limits, or you might go over their limits and be subject to a state estate tax. So let's look at this in a couple different ways. Let's just say you do have a federal or a state estate tax issue, meaning you are over those thresholds. Well, should he begin to gift money to his children and to his grandchildren? Yes, that is definitely something that you could do. And let's just kind of use this analogy. Let's just say Charles was $15,000 over the threshold. Well, if he gifts $15,000 to his children or his grandchildren, then now it again lowers his current estate amount, gets that money out of his estate, puts it into somebody else's, and gets him back again within those threshold limits. Now, when it comes to gifting, you can gift $15,000 per donor per recipient. So let's just say Charles has 3 children. Charles could give each child $15,000, and that would be $45,000 total, and he could do that without having to submit any sort of forms. Now, if you go over the $15,000 gift tax exclusion, then there are forms that you need to fill out, because what that does is it starts to reduce your total exemption amount. So, Charles, to your first question there, if you do have a federal or state potential issue, gifting is a way to lower your estate, try to get it under those threshold amounts, and help get that over to your children and your grandchildren, and just like you're thinking there, to avoid those potential estate taxes. Now, for those of you that are listening to this and you're like, but I don't have a federal issue or a state issue, you still have the ability, if you wish, to gift money to your children, to your grandchildren, to whomever you so choose. It doesn't have to be family related. And the reason I bring this up is because I am seeing more and more with clients that they want to see their children or their grandchildren enjoy these gifts to support them while they're alive, to watch them enjoy them, versus being an amount that just passes on to a beneficiary after you're to pass away. Now, I will say be careful with this, though, because based on current laws, and this could all change, but if you do have money in a non-retirement account, in a brokerage account, one of the benefits of holding on to that and passing that along after you were to pass is that your beneficiaries would receive a step up in cost basis. What does that mean? Well, here's what it means. It means that, let's just say you bought a stock, and when you purchased that stock, it was at $50 a share, and now it's at $100 a share. Well, if you were to sell that right now and pass that on, you're going to pay tax on that $50 per share gain. However, if you were to just hold on to that, and then this is something that you wanted to pass on, right? And pass on when you pass away, upon your passing, your beneficiary would get the step up in cost basis. So instead of that $50 per share price that you paid when you purchased, they would get the $100 per share price as their base. So they do not have that $50 per share gain that you would have in your scenario. So definitely a lot of different ways to help others, to support others, to pass money along to others, but you also want to watch what you're doing and keep paying attention to those thresholds and those limits and what account you're taking it from, because it might make more sense from a tax standpoint to help keep more money in your pocket to pass some types of accounts along upon your passing. But like I mentioned, I think, and I continue to see this shift, if you want to enjoy watching others use those funds to support them in whatever way possible, then the gift tax exclusions could help you potentially do that. For all of these types of questions, you really want to consult your team, your financial advisor, as well as your tax person, and they should be able to help you build a plan to put you in the best position possible to help you keep more money in your pocket versus give it to the IRS. All right. Let's move on. Our next question here is from Jamie. Jamie says, I looked forward to retirement for many years, but now that I'm actually retired, I can't shake the feeling that I'm eventually going to run out of money. Is there any solution for fighting this feeling other than simply spending less or going back to work? Jamie, I think for those without a plan or maybe without a financial advisor or somebody guiding them in the right direction, I'm going to say that you're not alone. And so I'll ask you, is this a fact or is it just a feeling? Remember back to that article, a lot of times savers have a tough time becoming a spender. So based on your questions, it kind of triggers me that maybe you do not have a plan in place. And retirement is a real major step in life. And I want you to let's just compare this to something else that might be major that a person would do, like build a house. And I want to walk you through the steps of building a house, and you can see how it'll relate to you in your retirement. So let's just say you're going to build a house. The first thing you do is you sit down with your team, the architect, construction manager, right? And you provide them your vision. What do you want your house to look like? Are you looking for a ranch, a 2-story? Windows, what kind of siding that you look like? How big do you want different rooms in the house? How do you want to flow through the house? And you're going to put everything out there, and they're going to take it down on paper to understand what you want that home to look like. And the same holds true for your retirement. Did you sit down and put together your vision? What you want your retirement to look like? How much to maintain your current lifestyle? Here's how much travel that you want to enjoy. Here's what you plan to do in your retirement, the activities that you plan to do. Maybe you've planned to do charitable giving throughout your retirement. So what is that vision of what you want your retirement to look like, right? Just like providing or creating this vision for how you want to build your house. So what happens next in the home building process? Well, they create a blueprint, right? They take your vision and they create a blueprint, a plan, multiple pages showing each room, how it's going to be constructed, how each little detail and part of that house will go together. Again, the same holds true for your retirement. Have you created a blueprint for your retirement? Meaning what your lifestyle expenses will be. Have you taken into account healthcare expenses? What about inflation? What about when you'll start collecting Social Security? And if you have a spouse, when should the spouse start collecting Social Security? Have you put in there travel? Have you put in and accounted for taxes? Has everything gone into your retirement blueprint? Then from there and back to the home building process, right? Part of the team now, the team's going to create this estimate, right? They're going to say, hey, based on your vision, based on the blueprints, here's how much it's going to cost to build that house. And then you're going to sit down with the construction team and say, okay, wait a second, this is financially feasible. Great, let's move forward. Or, you know what, this is a bit over my budget, so we need to start making some changes. And so we might, make some plan changes in the home. We might switch from hardwood to carpet in different areas. We might, again, make changes in that home to now get it within your budget. Same thing when it comes to your retirement. Once you've got that first draft of your income plan together, now it's time to sit down to look at that and say, okay, is retirement financially feasible? Or do you need to make some changes? Should you wait another year? Do you need to go back to work? Maybe if you would work just part-time and have X amount of income coming in each and every month, then you know what? All of this money will last as long as you will, and you'll be able to live that lifestyle that you so choose to live. Now, the last part on the building a house, a good construction team, they're going to put a contingency in there. They're going to put a contingency on that estimate, and that contingency is because they're not sure what's going to happen with the weather. They know that, they've worked really hard to build this great plan, but there might be something that they've missed. Or what if, as you're building that house, you decide, boy, I want some changes. And so that's why there's always a contingency here. And here's how I relate that to your retirement. Have you stress tested your plan? Have you stress tested your plan to say, hey, what happens to my plan if there's another market correction? What happens to my plan if inflation is a percentage point more than what I had already thought about? What happens to my plan if Social Security gets reduced? What happens to my plan if I live 5 more years longer than what I thought I would? So have you stress tested your plan? And so in my experience, Jamie, and for everyone listening, putting together this plan, but on top of it, doing a constant review of the plan each and every year, stress testing that plan each and every year is what helps people fight that feeling of this worry about running out of money. And so if you put together a really good plan and it includes everything and you're constantly reviewing it, it accounts for different surprises, that's how you fight this feeling of, do I need to go back to work? What's going on with my plan? Is everything going to be okay? And it helps provide you that confidence just to go out, live, and enjoy your life based on that plan you've created. So long story there to help you get through that, but I really hope that thought process, that analogy to building a house, helps you think about your retirement and how to put together that plan. All right, our next question here is from Linda. Linda says, my daughter just turned 18, and I'd like to help her get off on the right foot with retirement savings. What is the best way to get her started? First off, Linda, awesome. Awesome. I'm so happy that you're asking a question like this. I can't stress enough to everyone to have open conversations and communication with your kids when it comes to money and building good financial habits. The younger they are, the better the time to start teaching them those good financial habits, because those are the habits that you want them to build and that you want them to compound on. So great. Thanks for asking this question. And let's talk about this a little bit. And before I say that, there's so many folks that I meet that said, I wish I would have done this years ago. I wish I would have done this years ago. So if you're sitting there right now going, yeah, I wish I would have done something different years ago, take the time and have the conversations with your kids. So Linda, let's walk before we run. And here's what I mean by that. So I'm not sure if your daughter's working or not working, but the first thing, again, of just building good financial habits is I would help your daughter understand about having an emergency fund in place. Right? Having that reserve, you could call it emergency fund, rainy day fund, but start those good habits now. And a typical emergency fund is having 3 to 6 months of expenses in your savings account. Now, you might say, well, but my daughter's, living at home or she's not working. Either way, any way that you can show her, hey, here's how much, your costs are for her each and every month. So let's start building this up, right? Maybe your cost for your daughter, or let's just say $1,000 a month. We'll explain to her, hey, we want to get $3,000 in a savings account because that's her rainy day fund in case something were to happen. Once you get that in place, let's move forward. Let's say your daughter is working, and if she's got a 401k, you want to make sure that she is investing or contributing to her 401k, and you want to make sure she's at least getting her company match. So, for instance, a company match could be the company matches 100% up to 3% of the employee's contribution. So you want to make sure that she's putting in, at least in that example, 3%. Help her, go through what her company is offering and make sure that she's getting that match. Now, let's just say there's no 401k, but your daughter does have earned income. Then the next thing would be is, okay, let's get her contributing to an IRA or a Roth IRA. And you might say, okay, my daughter doesn't have any sort of earned income, but you really want to get her started in that investing process, saving for retirement process. That's then when you want to use a brokerage account, which is a taxable account. A lot of different ways to go here, on the investing side. Again, walk before you run. Really would like to see you help her set up an emergency fund, get that process going in her mind, start building those good habits. Once that's in place, then focus on the investing, and hopefully I've given you kind of 3 different lanes to go down there. If you do have a financial advisor, I'd highly recommend sit down with your financial advisor and your daughter and just have a great conversation of what steps that you should take to get her going in the right directions. Thanks for the great question. I really think it's awesome that you're having conversations at such a young age with your daughter, and I highly recommend that anyone out there with kids do exactly the same. All right, our last question here is from Christopher. He says, I'll be turning 70 at the beginning of next year, and I'm annoyed that I'll have to start taking money out of my IRA because I won't even need it. I'm sure that you have some tips for circumventing this rule. What are they? Well, first off, Christopher, the good news is that the new rule that's out there is that you don't have to start taking those required minimum distributions until age 72. So again, what Christopher's talking about there, anybody with a 401k, IRA, 403b, 457 plan at age 72, you have to start taking the required minimum distributions. Now, why is Christopher trying to get around this? Well, because all of those withdrawals that you take out of these accounts add to your taxable income. So you're going to add to your taxable income. You're going to have to pay tax. However, you can't avoid the required minimum distributions because if you try to, you will get penalized. Let me just give you an example here. Let's say Christopher's required minimum distribution is $10,000. But Christopher says, hey, like I said, right, I don't want it. Let it in there. Let it grow. Well, the government would penalize Christopher 50% of the amount that he failed to take. So they're going to take $5,000 from him. The other part, though, it's kind of like a double whammy. The other part is they're going to tax him still on the total $10,000 that he should have taken. So really important. Make sure you're taking your required minimum distributions. Now, again, can't avoid required minimum distributions, but let's just talk about an alternative option. And Christopher, I'm not sure if you've heard about the qualified charitable distributions, in which you give all or just a portion of your required minimum distribution directly to a charity. And that helps reduce your taxable income. Let me share an example with you here. Let's just say you have a required minimum distribution that you need to take of $20,000. Now, if you were to just take all $20,000, you're going to have to, all of that $20,000 goes in and adds in to your taxable income. So you're going to get taxed on all $20,000. But let's just say instead that there's some organizations that you're passionate about. And so you decide to give $5,000 directly to your favorite charity. And I want to be very clear on this. It has to go from your custodian, wherever your money sits, right? So, for instance, we use TD Ameritrade. It needs to go directly from TD Ameritrade to the charitable organization. You can't take it out first and then give it to them. And here's why. Let me explain. So as long as that $5,000 goes directly to the charity, again, out of your RMD, now instead of your taxable amount being $20,000, your taxable amount is only $15,000. So this is totally separate. I know a lot of people right now, they're because the standard deductions are so high, they have not been able to, write off additional charitable contributions. Totally separate of the standard deduction. All this is doing is reducing the taxable income that's being withdrawn from your IRAs. Again, it's taking that RMD and giving it straight to the charity. So like I mentioned there, that $20,000, instead of that amount of taxable income, you've now reduced your taxable income in that example to $15,000. So again, trying to help keep more of your money in your pocket and with you or with your charitable organizations that you wish to support versus giving it to the IRS in taxes. I really hope all of the responses to those questions helped you out. And if you have a question yourself, don't hesitate to submit it. Go to lifemoneyshow.com. Again, that's lifemoneyshow.com. I really hope you're enjoying the show. And if so, subscribe where you like to listen to podcasts. That way you get notified as we continue to come out with new episodes to help you build wealth and reduce your long-term tax picture. I look forward to our next conversation, to helping you live life today and be financially confident about your tomorrow.
Sierens Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Sierens Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Sierens Financial Group, Inc.